Just not paying any attention. Unreal. What an audience. We're off to an incredibly bad start already with a live studio audience. These people just did not jump on the clap sign at all. That is... What did you think I was sitting around holding up a piece of cardboard for, huh? All right. We are going to actually, first of all, we're going to take attendance here. Okay, TJ, you're here. You requested 2 tickets. Okay, all right. Phil Hill Jr. Phil Hill Jr.? Okay, Phil is not here. He wrote, let's see, he said, would it be possible to have 2 tickets for your Friday show? Any Friday would be great. I'm easy to please. If you were to give me 2 tickets, I swear I'd be the best audience member ever. I would bring my own chair. I would be on time. I would laugh at any funny comments, and I wouldn't be a jerk. I never miss listening to your show. Every afternoon at 3, your show graces my speakers. By the way, my speakers are located in a church. I'm a youth director. There goes the planet, right? I would be in your debt if you would send me 2 tickets. Thanks, Bob. Take care. Signed, Phil. P.S. my address, etc., etc. Well, Phil Hill Jr., you are not here. That means that 2 other people that would have wanted to be here couldn't be here because you didn't bother to show up. Phil Hill Jr. of St. Petersburg, if anybody knows him. Actually, Flack, I'm going to set this aside, and I want you to see if you can get his phone number. I'll give this to you during the break. His phone number from information. We'll call him at home and find out. Okay, Larry Dolman. Larry Dolman is not here either. He wrote, Dear Bob, I am begging and I am pleading for 2 tickets for April the 14th. Please, 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 sincerely, Larry Dolman. Okay, we don't have his phone number either, but we do have his address. We'll try to find him, too. Okay, Chuck Irmer. Chuck here? Okay, he wrote, Dear Mad Dog, I would like to bring my wife to a Friday show. We are both fans of yours and would be proud to attend one of your shows. I would also like to meet your producer, Mike. Your show makes my day a little brighter. Yours truly, Chuck and Paula Irmer. Hey, the Irmers? Okay, Mary Jo Kuhlman. Okay, Mary Jo. All right, we'll just mark you in attendance. I won't embarrass you by reading what you wrote here. Oh, my God. Okay, Mark Wicks. Well, wait a second. Who the hell are you?
Phil Hill Jr., the guy.
Phil Hill Jr.! Well, that's very kind of you, Phil. 12 cups of chocolate tasty cake cupcakes. Yes, very nice, Phil. Please, make yourself comfortable. You guys want to move out of the way so Phil can get a little closer? Give him plenty of room over there. No, it's fine. Okay, let's see, Mark Wicks. Okay, and you brought the one who didn't follow the instructions? Right. The guy that didn't bring his own chair? That tried to get a chair from me? Unbelievable. Okay, well, that just, I guess, really just leaves then the Irmers. Or no, Dolman. Yeah, Dolman and the Irmers who shafted us today. By the way, you see, I was not aware of the fact that Mary was keeping these letters. So in the future, those of you who write for tickets and do not show up, you will have to deal with this on Fridays, and I assume that members of the studio audience think that's the best way to deal with this. What you guys are getting better already. You're better than last week's audience. Okay, first of all, down to business. Thank you very much for the people who showed up for the Yahtzee tournament yesterday at Howard's. That was really Yahtzee. Tomorrow, God, I don't know why I get myself involved in this stuff, but tomorrow, if you wish to see a grown man make somewhat of a fool of himself prancing around in tights and a silly little costume trying desperately to do a talk show while moving about at the Renaissance Fair in Largo, then you're welcome to it. I would recommend going to the Renaissance Fair just for what's at the Renaissance Fair, not watching me make a fool of myself. If, however, you can't make it to the Renaissance Fair, please stay home and listen and call, because I don't know what the hell I'm going to do out there. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Please help me out. That will be between noon and 3. Are you serious already? Already he's there? Well, okay, we got people on the phone. I'll get to what I was going to talk about, but I've got some people on the phones that I have to clear up here, first of all. Let's see, a car phone stuck somewhere in traffic on I-4. Yes, I-4.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Fine, thank you. Yourself?
Oh, just fine. I have a question to ask you.
A question, yes.
Okay, I was listening to your show back a few days, and you were talking about religion and morals.
Yeah?
And then Mad Dog today was talking about the prison system.
Uh-huh.
Now, I am speaking from experience here.
I wasn't speaking about the prison system.
Well, no, you weren't.
Yeah,
But I just have a question to ask you that relates back to both of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of prostitution?
What do I think of prostitution? Actually, I have a fairly good contract, and I've not had to sell my body in quite a number of years.
Okay, what do you think of prostitution for the women? It benefits the woman who wants to make the money, as well as the man who needs some company because he's lonely. I mean, are you for it or against it? I mean, think about it.
Well, I have thought about it, and frankly, I can argue it from both sides.
Right.
I wish that prostitution did not exist. However, if two people wish to exchange money for sex, then, you know, while it makes me uncomfortable and it makes me unhappy, that's about the only thing I can find against it.
Okay. Another question. Do you think that it's worth a lot of money and time, you know, to, like, bust these poor girls who, you know, they're doing a job. It's a job. I'm one. I make a lot of money at it. My benefit. The man benefit. And these police cops and these undercover cops, they just come and they like to mess up our lives. Is it worth the taxpayers' money? I mean, it's older than the Bible.
Well, apparently the taxpayer feels it is.
Do they?
No, apparently.
Well, apparently I see a lot of the clientele.
Well, you see, it makes the taxpayer very, very nervous when prostitution is centered close to their homes or around their places of business.
But you
It would make me
can't
very
stop it.
uncomfortable, for example, if out in front of my house there were prostitutes lurking. I would call the police. I'll tell you that much right now.
I'm not talking about the streetwalkers. I'm talking about the escorts, the ones that cost a lot of money like myself.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they go for anywhere between 130 to up to 300.
Uh-huh.
And tip me out. You know, tip me out. And half the time the men, they don't want, you know, they don't want anything from you but good conversation.
Well, you see, also, a number of citizens are somewhat distressed that the yellow pages in their communities are filled with quote-unquote escort services. So, you know, don't say that the citizens don't want the police out there busting prostitutes. They do.
Yes, but is it really worth the time and the money? I mean, they could be spending it working on crack, working on the cocaine bust. I mean, and along with my fellow workers out there in the escort services, we're benefiting two parties, sometimes three. And why should they waste all the money chasing us now when they could be chasing those crack dealers and those people hurting the kids and, you know, all that bad stuff out there?
Well, also, they could be using some of the police power to chase down some of the bad callers, too, to talk radio.
Huh?
I said they could be using some of the police powers to chase down the bad callers to talk radio. There are quite a number of them of late, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
As I said, I have no problem whatsoever with your industry as long as you keep it away from my house and from my view. You know, I'm just like everybody else. Do you want me to lie to you?
No, I was just, you know, curious because you had a thing on walls.
You know, I'm sure that if there were a bunch of hookers working out in front of your house, I'm sure if there were a bunch of hookers working out in front of your house, you'd object to it as well.
I'd kick them. You know what?
Of course.
Take my business away. Come stand in front of my house. I have my Guido Pips chase them all. No, but really, it should be a moral issue.
A moral issue?
A moral issue. I mean, you know...
What does it have to do with morals?
It's moral.
What does it have to do with morals?
What?
Prostitution, yeah.
You can't stop it, and they got it legalized in Nevada and Australia.
Well, I still don't see what it has to do with morals. You see, I don't think it's a question of morality, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
Well, that's true, but I just think they should spend their money chasing after the murderers and the robbers and the violent crimes.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, they have not called off any murder investigations to investigate prostitution, but I understand what you're saying, and I thank you ever so much for saying it. I don't really, but I thought I'd say so. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Hello, Tampa. Tampa once. Tampa twice. Tampa, such is life. 17 and a half minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. I never did get around to telling you what I wanted to do today. You see, usually Fridays are relatively lighthearted shows. Normally, I will even go so far as to say things like, you know, anything goes Friday, and I will play extra special music and drop-ins, things of that nature, which you will notice we have not done, at least not yet today. There's a reason for that. There's a very good reason for it. The last 24, 48 hours have been a little strange on me. It all started when I got home Wednesday night, but I won't go into that. I don't want to embarrass the man that I was out and got somewhat plastered with. And besides, I haven't seen him since then, and I don't know if he found all the things I said amusing. But nonetheless, it started when I got home that night. Strange things have been going on in this community, and I don't always understand. I got up yesterday morning, I read the newspaper. I get both newspapers at home now, and for some strange reason, I read the St. Petersburg Times first yesterday, and I normally would not. I would normally read the Trib first. And I read the story about the horrible, god-awful murder in the St. Petersburg Times yesterday morning, which was relatively sanitized. And then I got to the Trib, and I read the same story. And the Trib went into much, much more graphic detail about this awful murder of the two children. The mother, the father, of literally cutting the fetus out of the mother. It was awful. So were the pictures that the Tribune ran. So were the pictures that most of the television stations ran. I don't understand. I truly do not understand why we need to see the blood-spattered pillow and the trail of blood from one house to the next. I don't understand why that has to be shown. And I don't understand why no one else found any fault with it. I don't understand why we needed so much detail in the Tampa Tribune. I don't think my life is any more enriched. I don't believe your life any more enriched, and I don't believe our constitutional rights are any more served with knowing every grisly little detail that the Tribune could possibly squeeze from the police and put into print and run in their newspaper. I mentioned to you, first of all, I read the St. Petersburg Times. It told me that 4 people had been killed. It told me that a woman's stomach had been slashed. A pregnant woman's stomach had been slashed, and it said that it took some time, but that the woman made it from her house over to her mother's house, uttered but a few words, and collapsed into a coma, and I knew the story. Then I read it in the Tribune, and I knew everything about it. Far more than I needed to know, far more than anybody needs to know, I firmly believe. I listened to a colleague, a young man that I have a great deal of respect for, and I heard him talking about it this afternoon. I heard him say, well, yeah, gee, the guy confessed, let's get it over and done with. I heard a caller call up and say, gee, I'm really sick and tired of criminals having rights. I'm really sick and tired of all these rights for criminals. Let's just do away with this guy. I'm sick and tired myself, personally, of people not quite understanding that criminals have no rights. That we have such laws, we have such rights, not to protect the criminal, but to protect him. You see, the logic was, well, gee, the guy confessed to the police. It was published in the paper. The newspapers and the televisions all said that he was guilty. How easy it would be if we did not have rights for criminals, quote unquote, for the police to say that, oh yeah, we picked the guy up, he was guilty. I don't quite understand what the point was last night while watching television, network television, of seeing somebody in Mexico digging up a grave and seeing body parts. I don't quite understand. I don't understand why that had to be on network television. I don't quite understand the outrage from the crowd for the so-called devil worship in Mexico. You see, there wouldn't be any devil worship if it wasn't for those people, because they're the people that told other people about devils. I don't understand the faith healing trial going on in this community. And I don't understand why, again, virtually no one mentions it. I don't understand why I turned on my television this morning, to a broadcast channel, not a cable channel, but a broadcast channel that theoretically belongs to me and you, to all of us. And I saw on there a clip from the Richard Roberts Show coming from Tulsa, Oklahoma, bounced off a federally funded satellite, and then broadcast over a for-real television station using the public airwaves, where there's a man sitting there saying, oh, have your teenagers been giving you trouble? Have your teenagers been breaking your heart? Did your daughter lose her virginity? Well, I'm telling you right now that if you send your money into this ministry, if you plant your seed with this ministry, by the year's end, the Lord will make your daughter whole again. That's not funny. It's sad. It's pathetic. I don't understand these things. I don't understand why Newsweek magazine ran an article this week, about the minimum wage. I don't understand how things like like were printed in that magazine can be said, and no one bothered to mention anything. Let me share just a very small portion of it, just a couple of sentences, literally. Quote, in Newsweek magazine, only 3.4% of the American workforce now holds jobs that pay the minimum wage or less. And of these, 3.9 million persons, some 80%, are second or third wage earners in strictly unpoor households. Or, excuse me, that's statistically unpoor households. The real beneficiaries of a minimum wage hike, critics say, are likely to be middle-class teenagers flipping hamburgers after school. What scares many economists, especially non-conservatives like, again, I mistake, I read the wrong words, neoconservatives, like Michael Boskin, chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, is the possibility that raising the minimum wage will be at least somewhat inflationary. A significant uptick in inflation could force higher interest rates. That would then dump the economy into recession. The minimum wage hike could blow the economic recovery apart in a blaze of inflation, one administration source warns. Let me see if that makes any sense. 3% of the people in this country earn the minimum wage. Giving them what amounts to a 35-cent an hour increase is going to blow the economy apart? Well, that means that 97% of the people in this country earn more than the minimum wage, virtually all of whom will, during the next year, get at least a 35-cent increase. What do you people put up with an administration that says this kind of stuff for? 97% of the people get 35 cents an hour, and it's going to be fine and dandy? 3% of the people get 35 cents an hour, and it's going to blow the recovery? I don't understand. I just really and truly do not understand. My station this morning did, like 15, 20 minutes of people calling in screaming. I don't understand. Do you realize that last night I dreamt about this radio station? It's really true. Last evening, or I guess technically it was this morning, I had a dream. I dreamed that I started playing more and more and more music on my show, and that other people started copying it, and that pretty soon this talk station became a music station, and it became a very successful music station, and we started making more money than we had ever made before, and we had bigger ratings, and we put Cleveland out of business, and we put Jeff and Jeff out of business. And the first thing, because the station got so successful, the first thing they did, the people who own the majority of stock, is they sent all of their relatives to work here as managers. And I ran into one of them who bore an incredible resemblance to the chairman of the board of this organization. I'm telling you the truth. Except that he was much smaller. But outside of that, he looked just like Terry Jacobs. And he was giving me some grief for his song that I played, and I was giving him some grief, and I was telling him there were lots of songs, but only one Lassiter, and he didn't quite understand it, and I ended up quitting and walking out the door in a big huff. I dreamt about this radio station and what's going on here and all the crazy calls and all the crazy people. And all the things I just talked to you about today that no one's mentioned anything about. So it is with great fear I give out the telephone numbers, if I may, for what will be a Friday afternoon. Anything goes? Nah, not really. I'm not in the mood for it, to tell you the truth. I'm not in the mood for the silliness. I'm not in the mood for the fun and games. I'll take what I can get. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 990-WFLA, 461-9352 in Pinellas, 461-WFLA, 27 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. 32 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. Yeah, there's one more thing I forgot to mention in the quote-unquote monologue. Something that I heard on the station while driving in this afternoon. It's really very dangerous for me anymore to listen to talk radio while driving. It's a good thing there aren't, ditches along the way, because I'm sure that's where I would end up. But, again, a reasonable man, probably somebody's daddy, probably a guy that pays his taxes and his bills on time, but who just doesn't think when he opens his mouth, talking about capital punishment. Of course, the entire community is very, very distraught with this horrible murder. But talking about capital punishment and those very sincere people who are against it, this yahoo, this buffoon, literally says, and again, I don't believe anybody called him on it. He literally said, I would like to see somebody in one of the families of the people who hold candles killed, and then let's see how they feel about it. I would like to see an innocent person killed so that it might change the mind of somebody who doesn't think the way I do, is in essence what the man said. And again, I'm very, very sorry because I like the young man very much. The host said, uh-huh. And the callers and the audience all said, uh-huh. No, that's why I'm just not really in the mood to be very humorous this afternoon. Valrico, hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Doing fine, thank you.
Listen, in regards to television, why do you watch it?
Why do I watch it, sir? Because I have to keep abreast of what's going on.
Okay. In regards to Tampa Tribune, I didn't read the particular edition you're referring to, but didn't they do the same thing when this airplane crash in Scotland came about? Didn't they show a picture of someone hanging from a parachute?
I believe they did, sir.
Okay, but that really bothers you, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I have to see it for. I don't know why it has to be published in the newspaper. Do you?
No, personally, I'm taking your side exactly, but evidently they have to do it. They fail to sell papers to compete with the St. Petersburg Times.
I doubt it very much because that's not the kind of market it is here. If this was a market where there were news vendors on every corner, I'd say okay, but the primary market here is for home delivery. And I don't know anybody that got up and said, well, there was a gorier picture in the St. Petersburg Times this morning. Let's cancel the Trib and get the Times. Where, you know, I appreciate if you're walking down the street in New York, you might be more inclined to buy the Daily News with a gory picture or headline on the front page than you would the New York Times, which says something about statistical review.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's not the case here.
Yeah, and to further comment on what you said about the, I guess you were quoting Newsweek magazine, the 35 cents is going to put the whole economy in a tailspin?
Right, 35 cents for 3% of the workforce.
Well, here's one even better. How can you have a training wage when supposedly minimum wage is only for unskilled labor?
I don't know, sir. I wonder where maybe you heard that from. I've been saying it for months.
I just moved here.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't...
Well, it makes a great deal of sense. Well, you seem to be the only the second person in the entire country to raise that question. Because all along the argument for eliminating the minimum wages, this is unskilled labor. And now all of a sudden that you can't eliminate it, well, you know, hey, we need 6 months to teach these people how to do what monkeys can do.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously on the anniversary of the 6-month period, they fire them.
Oh, I don't think they have to because usually people at $3.35 an hour and lousy jobs quit before 6 months is over. So.
Well, they know that, so it's just a turnover mechanism.
But, you know, I go into the 7-Eleven every day. I go into Publix. I go into Simon Schwartz. I go to Burdines. I go to Moss Brothers. I go to all different kinds of stores, and I have never seen 2 cash registers, one that says above minimum wage, one that says training wage. Hey, price of bread's the same for everybody.
Exactly. And lastly, you were referring to WFLA becoming a music show?
Uh-huh.
Am I correct?
Well, so that was what my dream was.
Were you sure you weren't listening to Lionel all week?
I don't like, you know, dreaming about where I work.
Well, yes, sir, but I guess you've been listening to Lionel too much, and Herb Adderley and everyone, and all his buddies and his girlfriend.
No, there's no reference to Lionel or his show whatsoever. This was just a weird dream where I started playing records, and everybody else said, well, yeah, let's play records, and pretty soon there was no more talk. It was just a lot of records, but it was very successful, sir. You're missing the point of the dream.
Oh, okay.
And all of the owners sent all of their relatives to work here. And they were all bosses.
Yes, and when this happened, was Jack Elliott... Excuse me, Bob, was Jack Elliott...
Excuse me in the middle of my sentence? Well, he did say he just moved here. He'll learn. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob. Fez Watley.
Well, Fezzy, baby, how you doing?
I've been around lately because, you know, we had a delivery a few weeks ago. It's been very busy ever since.
All right, yes.
Bob, listen, I have to talk a little bit quietly because I'm calling from my office here at the Jeff and Jeff radio show.
Uh-huh.
So I have to be a little bit quiet if you don't mind.
Well, what's the problem?
Have you missed me lately, Bob?
You know, no more than in Patago.
I'm sorry, more than what?
No more than in Patago.
Oh, please,
Weird
Louise.
tropical disease. It oozes a lot.
I like the way you're talking today, Bob.
I thought you would.
Bob, I have to be quiet. Oh, excuse me. Yes,
what?
Mr. Jeff. Oh, I wanted the donuts. Yes, this is the donut show. This is the donut shop for Monday's show already. Yes, sir. I'd like 12 glazed donuts, 7 jelly donuts, and 6 blueberry, and 1 French cruller for me. Yes, Mr. Jeff. I'll make sure the order gets through. Okay, he's gone, Bob.
Oh, okay.
Those are the order for Monday's show.
Uh-huh. You guys have a lot of donuts over there?
Well, if Mr. Jeff wants them, I get them.
Okay.
That's right. Oh, what's that, Mr. Jeff? Oh, I'll spit on your shoes. Just leave them right there. Okay, goodbye, sir.
Will you be stopping in perhaps next week?
That's him leaving right now, Bob.
Will you be stopping in perhaps next week?
It depends if that delivery's taken care of, then I will, Bob.
Okay. Well, I would hope that you'll stop by then.
And, Bob, listen up just a little bit. Remember, Fridays are supposed to be anything goes.
Take care.
Bye.
Off we go to Tampa again. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I'm an educator in Hillsborough County, and I'm taking a graduate course out at USF.
Yeah.
And last night, this teacher that teaches at a special training center for neurological problem children told me something that is just really has me bothered. She said that in the month of February, 25% of the children born were born to cocaine-addicted mothers. And, you know, the impact of what this is going to do...
Number sounds a little bit high.
Huh?
Number sounds a little bit high.
Well, yeah, now that's why I wanted to tell you where the source was, because maybe somebody else can call in. I'm going to be traveling down south, and I'm going to listen, and maybe somebody can call in with, you know, a better figure. But what I think they should do, and you probably have a better idea, but why, if somebody is brought in to deliver a baby and they are addicted to cocaine, why can't they tie the woman's tubes or something? Because these people have babies over and over again, and if they're addicted, they're not going to probably just get off.
Well, tell you what, I might go along with something like that, tying the tubes of a woman who is dependent on drugs. If we could also tie the tubes of a woman who would call up a talk radio show and give outrageous statistical information that she has nothing to back up with.
Well, you were wondering about people in this community that,
I
you know,
sure
why
am wondering about people in this community, madam.
Why we aren't, you know, more concerned about what's going on, and I'm calling.
Why? Yeah, I don't know why you've got to make things up that are going on. Why not just be concerned with what's real?
Well, I think it is real, even if the statistics are a little bit high. I had a child in my class that was addicted to cocaine when he was born, and
you're on your way to teach now.
No, I'm on my way out of town. I told him I was an educator, so that's probably how he got that I was on my way to teach. But anyway, they had to send him to a special center because he was just, you know, totally uncontrollable. And what I'm hearing through the educational channels are that we're going to be seeing more and more of these children. And I think that's a concern. Maybe somebody could call with some kind of idea of how we could help the situation, because I am concerned about it, and I'm sure you are too. Well, I'm pretty sure you are. And I just wanted to say, because I'll get off the phone, I know other people want to talk, but I listen to you as much as I can, and I enjoy your show, and keep up the good work.
There are two types of BMW.
Always do after that.
Oh, incredible. Really got you guys scared, huh? All right, back to the phones we go. Tampa, hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Bob.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
I just wanted to call and say that there's someone out there besides you that this type of thing bothers, meaning the blatant advertisement of all these murder and all this commercialism of it. It really makes me sick. I mean, I don't know. I don't like to hear it. I mean, I guess, you know, I just want to close my eyes and look the other way, but I don't know if that's the right thing to do. But on the other hand, it's just every single day they're shoving it down my throat, you know, having to listen to
well, you said they're shoving it down your throat. I'm not so sure that it's, quote-unquote, the media's fault, because they wouldn't do it if there wasn't a market for it. And I think it's probably more your fault, my fault, for putting up with it, sometimes even being titillated by it, sometimes, now, hell, I'll go out of my way sometimes to read something a little bit extra strange.
You know, it's funny.
If I see a headline that says, father rapes 12-year-old daughter, you know the odds are I'm going to read that article?
You know, it's funny,
so that I can pretend, I can pretend to be enraged by it. Well, I actually am enraged by it, but nonetheless, I go out of my way to read it. I don't know that we need that, do we?
I don't know. All I know is I've been going out of my way not to read it and not to watch it. And, you know, I do my damnedest when I drive and listen to you guys all day. You know, the minute the 50 news break and the top of the hour news break, the radio goes down because I don't want to hear it anymore. It's like every single day. I don't think it's funny anymore. You know, it's not a game. You know, I'm starting older. I realize that these are real people, and I guess it's not like I'm disinterested. It's just that I don't know what in the hell I'm supposed to do about it. it's really disturbing.
By the way, for the benefit of all those people who feel really sorry for this family that was wiped out by this lunatic, and all those people who also, by the way, are good, staunch Republicans, that father was earning $4.50 trying to raise that family of two with the third on the way.
It does surprise me.
I just thought I'd throw that in there. I know the one has nothing really whatsoever to do with the other, but I just thought I'd throw it in there.
I think that caller, too, that you were referring to on the other show that called, I believe he said also he wanted to put a collar around that guy's neck, and he'd hoped he was still listening. And
well, when people are going to start to understand that criminals have no rights, they're not intended to have rights, those rights are for you and I in case we get caught up in the system when we're not guilty.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. I mean, a knee-jerk reaction might be, let's take him out and kill him.
Oh, there was another one, too, that I heard this afternoon. I think it was out of a Mike Royko column, one of the great populists of our time, a man that really appeals to anybody with a third-grade mentality, apparently put in his column something to the effect of, we spend more building a prison than we do on luxury housing, than we spend per square foot on luxury housing. Mm-hmm. And the host, again, a young man that I'm very fond of, as well as all of the rest of the callers, I guess it never dawned on them that you can go into virtually any luxury house built today and kick your way out of it. That's why it tends to cost a little bit more to put, steel on the walls and that kind of stuff.
Right, and you have to, have guards and people around the clock to watch these clowns.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I wish I knew what in the hell to do about it, because it's frustrating to have to hear this night after night. I mean, I don't watch the news, but you can't get away from it. Even like the one guy said, well, turn your TV off. I mean, that'll help.
I don't think I should have to be sitting in my living room talking to my wife, open my eyes, and see a foot protruding out of a grave.
I know.
On network television.
It's disgusting. I just hope that there's more people calling, and just so I know that not everybody out there is completely out of their minds.
Thank you very much. Off we go to Lakeland High. Lake, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, sir.
Bob, along the lines as your last caller, I've gotten to the point where I'm just numb. I mean, I think it goes back to what people said about the Vietnam War, and one of the ways that it ended was it came into our living rooms and we were sensitized. But I think now we've gone full circle. I'm embarrassed to say that this news of this past week met me with almost like a ho-hum attitude, another mass murder. And I've just gotten numb to it now. I don't feel responsive to it anymore.
That, on the surface, might sound like too simplistic a statement on your part, but I wonder how many murders are committed every year in this country. I don't wish to imply that this last horrible thing has anything to do with this, but I wonder if there are people killed in this country every year because of a desensitization, because of a killer not really understanding that this isn't real, that this, you don't pick up and start all over again next week.
That could well be.
I'm sure that there are people that die every year in this country because of that. And I wonder how many.
Well, and also your last caller was expressing his frustration, and out of all the things I agree with you on it, one day, and I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but I thought I picked up some sense that you didn't feel that economic boycott was any kind of strategy for social change. Am I correct? Did I pick that up properly?
Usually not, yeah. As a general rule of thumb, I'd say yes to that.
Well, how do we impact change on the national media, on the public airwaves, which we supposedly own, if we can't have some impact on the advertisers by not buying their products? Or I think we all
real simple. First of all, do exactly what you're doing, because the media is extremely sensitive to criticism. But for you to stop buying Coca-Cola because you don't like what NBC put on adjacent to a Coca-Cola commercial is threatening the jobs of hundreds of thousands of very innocent people that have nothing whatsoever to do with it.
I see your point there.
However, I promise you that somebody at WFLA TV is listening to this show, and if we start coming down on something that NBC News did last night, it will get back to NBC in New York in a real hurry. They will be very sensitive to it, I promise you.
Well, I'd certainly like to think that, and thank you for the opportunity. If I might raise one other thing, I had expected to maybe receive something in the mail on the continuing Dick Norman Fund. As a minor contributor, I was just hoping that I'd receive something so I could do something on an ongoing basis.
There will be some information on that. I just spoke with David Maseko on that very issue Wednesday night, and there will be something on the air very shortly concerning what has happened to this point and what's going to happen.
Even I get a big kick out of a telephone solicitation call in Dick's memory fund for the Dick Norman Fund.
From an automatic machine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Don Richards standing by with the WFLA News Brief. Don? Eastbound. WFLA 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. No doubt, an awful lot of people sitting home saying, geez, where's Anything Goes Friday? I don't understand. Well, if you're that far gone, it would be hopeless for me to explain to you. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob, and
Hi.
Good afternoon to your audience today. I'm really I got really interested driving home about your subject, again, about being desensitized and having the news go too far in extremes that way. I'd recommend something I just saw on TV recently. I guess this was just the other night on C-SPAN, which is, of course, the only station on at my house. No, just kidding. But anyway, it was a meeting of newspaper editors that had Geraldo, Larry King, Phil Donahue. Did you see any of that?
Well, I read about it, and I saw on some other news broadcast maybe 30 seconds of it, but I did read about it.
Yeah, well, I imagine they rerun those things on C-SPAN. It's about an hour and a half. It's really fascinating because, of course, they started out in the beginning slamming the tabloid TV guys who've been getting so much press about this, and all the newspapers and magazines being indignant, about what they're doing. And but they had representatives of different newspapers as well as TV shows and everything else, news shows. And
that if I sit here and do what I think should be done, I will sit here and talk to primarily people 60 years of age and over, and I'll sit here with a 1 or 2 or 3 share of the market. I try to find some way to go in between, to do a little of each. I don't know how to do it. Normally, yesterday I did a BS show, okay? 120%. I got such a kick out of thinking about somebody driving through town for the first time, running up and down the radio dial and finding somebody talking about Yahtzee. I went home with a mild smile on my face, and then I went home and, really thought about it. A waste of 3 hours of airtime. Isn't it?
I don't know. My wife and I had a great time there.
Oh, you were actually physically there. Okay.
We were physically. We came out to see, and it was a lot of fun. We had to see. It painted such an interesting picture in my mind of people drinking and playing Yahtzee somewhere with Bob Lassiter.
Well, it painted an interesting picture in my mind, too, but then I think of a lot of other shows that I've done, a lot of other shows that other people have done. What this market was like 3.5 years ago. In some respects, I'm very proud of having almost single-handedly changed it. And then in other respects, I'm not too proud about it because it's because of me that there are people like Greg the Screamer.
Well, I don't know.
This could have never happened 3.5 years ago.
I'd like to keep that separate a little bit because what it got me interested in was primarily news shows, whereas I'd put you still more in a class of an entertainment show that, or a talk show, a radio talk show. I don't know how else to describe it. You're a talk guy. It's a different category almost, in my mind.
Yeah, talk guy.
It's different than watching your news at night and seeing, as you said...
well, this isn't supposed to be news. It's not supposed to be journalism. It never was. But how serious is it supposed to be? How frivolous is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be a little of each? Sometimes I don't know. Today's one of the days, by the way, when I just do not know.
Well, you're given a little more freedom with what you do. But I think it still is a valid question of, how much is too much for the newspapers and for them to be presenting this news to us. And it makes me wonder why our country seems to produce more than its share of these wackos.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good afternoon.
2 more hours yet to go, please. Whatever you do not venture very far.
Pittsburgh 76 in Clearwater, in Tampa 75 on News Radio 970 WFLA. Next news at 4:30, bulletins at once. I'm Don Richards.
Bob Lassiter, News Radio 970 WFLA.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. For thine is the kingdom come, that will be done on earth as it is in heaven. One nation, under God, liberty, justice for all.
That's right, liberty and justice for all. Now, of course, it would not be a Friday without the Lord's Pledge, and if you weren't with us, we didn't play the Lord's Pledge at the 3 o'clock hour. It's a long story. Basically, what it boils down to is while Fridays are traditionally on this program, or at least they have been for the last 4 or 5 months, rather lighthearted, quote-unquote, anything goes fair, and they may be again next week or next year, who knows. Today, the truth of the matter is I am not in the best of humor. I'm not in a bad mood. Please don't misunderstand. I still have a mild sense of humor. but I just don't feel like being frivolous today because there are all kinds of weird things going on that bother me, okay? And I know it's not fair, but because they bother me, you guys have to live with it. 2 lines available. They're both in Hillsborough, 990-9352, 990-WFLA. Again, for me to go through the list of things that bother me, if you weren't here at 3 o'clock, it would be futile. Just kind of stick around and see what happens. Largo, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Hi.
I'd like to, well, as you said, it's a very serious topic about the...
Greg, get off my phone. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Bob, listen, I was going to... Well, good afternoon, I should say first.
Good afternoon.
I thought before that you were so contradictory, it was incredible.
How's that?
But then, well, you were saying that you were sick and tired of the media, of the newspapers, of turning on the TV and seeing hands, seeing gruesome things.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also said that, well, you've got to weigh things. You've got to go ahead and make it a good show and not necessarily have something as boring as listening to you scramble Yahtzee around. But that's another.
Yeah, but I think there's a real big difference between being somewhat provocative and showing body parts and graves from devil-worshipping ranches in Mexico, or putting on the front page of the paper or on television at 6 o'clock pools of blood from where a woman was horribly, horribly chopped apart. I think there's a real big difference between provocative and that, isn't there?
Isn't that what people want to see, though, Bob?
Of course it's what they want to see.
The Romans, they had the gladiators out there, and it went on and on throughout history. And if there's anybody out there who can say they didn't take an extra close look at the newspaper, to look at that porch, to look at the little tricycle sitting there, or somebody who didn't look at the Scotland body hanging there, or the thing on the TV the other night, if they say they didn't take a close look, then they're full of horse hockey.
I basically agree with you. But that's why we need some form of self-policing in our lives, not just those people who run newspapers, but those people who read newspapers as well. Because I don't want censorship, do you?
Not at all.
Of course not.
But then again, if there was, I guess, more policing, if you will, Bob, then you might even not have as much to talk about. You might be slicing your own throat. Because if they hadn't put all that on, you, of course, wouldn't have all these people so emotionally charged calling up. And I'm sure all these people are more charged up now because they're actually talking about it on the radio than they were when they actually saw it in the paper.
Well, here's the truth of the matter. I have 5 calls, including yours, on the board. There was one additional thing that I failed to mention in my monologue, and I'm going to assume you heard my monologue, correct?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Okay, there was one additional thing. I forgot to put it in my notes, but I just remembered it now, that drove me bananas. I was going through Newsweek this morning before I came into work, and I turned to the page called Transitions. That's where they list where all the famous people who died in the past week and this, that, and the other. Well, there was one little item in the Transitions section that it sums up the whole damn thing. I think it sums up what is wrong in this country. It was towards the bottom of the column, and it said, I'll have to paraphrase, but it said that Hulk Hogan recaptured his WWF heavyweight title from Randy Macho Man Savage, as though we were talking about something. Well, the first thing that went through my mind is I don't remember years ago when The Godfather first came out where they put in that Don Corleone died in the course of the motion picture, The Godfather.
Yeah.
That was not in the Transitions column. Why not? I can't begin to imagine. It should have been by the standards of what was there this week. Now, I just told you I've got 5 calls on the board. I'll bet you a nickel I could have a full board if I had done my show on that one blurb in the transition column.
Probably. That's what people want to hear. That's
so don't
what people
talk about.
Want to see.
So don't be so sure. I shouldn't say don't talk about. Don't be so sure that my board is full of impassioned people who want to talk about this topic. And had it not been there, I wouldn't have a show today.
Okay, for granted.
It's a crazy world, man.
Yeah, that is. One other question for you, Bob.
Sure.
More lightly, as you said, it is Friday. Are you going to be at the Renaissance Festival Sunday also?
No, I will not. Just tomorrow between noon and 3.
Planning on it. Come out and see you Sunday. The wife and I had it off, but now I hear you're just going to be there Saturday, so she can't make it.
Oh, bummer.
What a drag. Okay, Bob.
Okay,
thanks.
take
Have
care.
A good one. Bye-bye.
990-9352 in Hillsborough, 4619352 in Pinellas. Let's see, Sunset Beach. Hi, Sunset. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
For years I listened to the morons who parroted Spiro Agnew's attack on the press, almost 20 years ago now. And my theory is sort of those people have pretty much gotten their way, and now I've become one of the people who's screaming loudly about what the news media is sort of doing to our public psyche. And it gets back to what you were talking about during your first hour about the level that the Tribune has stooped to, and I think the level that a lot of broadcast and print media has stooped to.
Well, it's just astonishing. Had I not read the St. Petersburg Times account first, I would have never known how you could have told the story without it being a disgusting, upset-your-stomach type of story.
If you'd removed the names and the particulars, you almost would have sworn you were reading about two entirely different events.
Well, yeah, there were some major discrepancies. Major discrepancies. One that comes to my mind is that the Times said the guy confessed as to the account of things, and they just assumed that it was all correct. The Trib, of course, said, yeah, he confessed as to exactly how it happened, but unfortunately it doesn't stack up that way.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of this comes back to two big changes that have taken place, mostly in TV news in the last few years, and those changes have now forced the newspapers to play to pander to a lower denominator than they used to. There was a time in the mid-'70s where people who run the TV business realized that news was a potentially enormous source of revenue, and that instead of offering news as some sort of a service function as payment for using that public trust.
Well, I'm not so sure I can agree with you on that. Can you hold on through a break here, because you've brought up, if you'll pardon the expression, you've opened a canister of worms that I would like to explore with you if you can hang on for a couple of minutes, can you?
Certainly.
Okay, let me put you on hold. That's line 5, which, of course, I will write down so I do not forget it, and as we all know, in all probability, I will. Why? Did they add a couple of new interstates and, several new bad intersections?
No, they just blocked one.
Then it's just the same story over and over and over again, Gary. Why isn't it any different on Friday than it is on Monday?
Oh, leave me alone, you big grump. We have major problems. I-4 East.
O'clock. I did notice in the newspaper this morning, perhaps you did too, an ad about some guy that's going to blow through town this weekend and conduct some quit smoking courses. Said basically all you have to do is show up, and your life will be all fine and dandy within a couple of hours, and he'll be gone. I doubt it very much, but hey, if you want to plunk down the big bucks and go to it, try it out. But it takes a little bit more than just showing up to give up smoking. I mean, it's an addiction. It literally is, and for a lot of people, it's a lifelong addiction. You can beat it. You really can beat it. It is possible, but it takes a little bit of work. It takes a little bit of effort. And I'm not quite sure how somebody coming through town and conducting a seminar for a couple of hours and then blowing out of town can really do you any good, but try it out if you'd like. Or do what I did. I beat a lifelong addiction to cigarettes when I got in touch with Dr. Robert Sobel. His program is called Quit for Life. It doesn't make any difference what it's called. It works. 787-5530, 787-5530. If you're really serious about quitting smoking, get in touch with Dr. Robert Sobel. He has an office in Clearwater. You can attend afternoon or evening courses, or you can get the tape and book and try it on your own, or you can get together a group of people and have a Quit for Life party. Okay? $37.50 total cost, 2 one-hour sessions. It works. Quit for Life. 787-5530. Off we go to Sunset Beach. Hi, Sunset. You're back on the air. I almost forgot about you. I knew I would if I didn't write it down. You had said something that was very provocative, and now I'm trying to remember what it was.
Well, I said that basically broadcast news business has been corrupted by people who decided that the only thing broadcast news was good for was making money at the expense of other loftier goals.
I can't totally disagree with that, although I don't really think that's what I took exception with. It's a situation where, A, you've got to give the people what they want. I know that.
I have a problem with that already.
Well, also a little bit earlier I'd spoken about self-policing, and I think that also plays a part in it. I know what it was that you were saying about you kind of alluded that back in the 50s and the 60s and the earlier days, it was a more responsible business. I'm not so sure it was. I think back then the business policed itself a little bit too much. It painted too rosy a picture of what was going on.
Well, I'm not particularly thrilled with the results of deregulation, because to me that those results have brought us stuff like Morton Downey Jr., which I pray is finally living out its cycle and will soon be gone. But let me flesh out my point a little bit more. I think there's been a sea change in the ethics of the people who put together TV news shows, and I think to a lesser degree the people who put together major, serious metropolitan newspapers. I think instead of, and I understand there has to be sizzle with what they put out. I'm not arguing that point.
Would you be talking about the, what went on at Channel 10 recently? Is that part of it? I think it's valid if that's what you're referring to.
I think that's just kind of competition that's run amok. Yeah, sure, it's part of it. But, instead of the traditional emphasis in the business on telling people what they should know, and I admit that's a very arbitrary function. That means that an editor gets paid to do his job. He has to select what he thinks people should know about.
Well, I think people should have known about all the stories I talked about. I just thought I'm not so sure that we needed quite as much detail.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. There's been a shift from the ethic of telling people what they should know to telling people almost exclusively what they want to know. And that usually involves kind of a heavy dose of pandering to low instincts, and it's just a continual downward cycle.
Well, I've been troubled for the last 24 hours of this mental image that came upon me without warning from reading through the Tampa Tribune yesterday, and I shall try to tell as little of what I'm troubled by as I possibly can. The portion of the story dealing with what he did to the pregnant mother. This has just been in my mind now for over 24 hours. I didn't need it. I don't need it.
I skipped over it. I just felt, why on earth do I need to know this?
Well, it was there and gone in a sentence.
But, the self-policing, that's a real nice sort of idealized concept, but it's not going to go anywhere, because I feel that we've gotten into this vortex.
St. Petersburg Times pulled it off without going into that much detail.
Well, I'm sure that they have their gory file as well.
Well, of course they do. We're
maybe
talking about one instance here.
Maybe their reporters just weren't there in as timely a fashion.
My friend, I thank you very much.
Oh, by the way, the thing that the guy was talking about on C-SPAN a couple of days ago,
yeah,
that's going to be on tomorrow evening at 5:25.
Thank
Sunday
you.
At noon, and I commend it highly. It was a hell of a show.
Take care. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Apathetic for Nortner. I'm sorry if I'm disappointing you today. Hey, it's the way it goes. Sometimes you disappoint me. Don Richards standing by with the WFLA News Brief. Don? Is that for me or for Richards? Oh, it's for me. Okay, how about Don Richards? Oh, geez, that's too bad. Before we go back, let me very briefly tell you about the Oreck vacuum cleaner. We've been talking about the Oreck now for a number of weeks on this program. Those of you who do not live in caves have heard about the Oreck for a number of years, because it has literally been years that the Oreck people have been trying to tell you about the amazing 8-pound Oreck XL hotel vacuum cleaner. It is a machine that was originally designed for industrial use, but it's now available to you. They've told you about the fantastic top-fill design, its powerful high-speed motor, its deep cleaning brush action. I can pick up pet hair in just one easy swipe. The Oreck XL. But you haven't bought yours yet. I can't begin to imagine why. I told you how, Muffy and I actually fought over the damn thing when I brought it in the house. I'm not making that up. Well, okay, so it wasn't fighting, but nonetheless it was a little bit tugging back and forth. Come on, let me try it. No, let me try it. Well, you don't have to wait any longer. You can buy one of the 8-pound Oreck XL show models for only $259.95 and get the 4-pound companion vacuum. That's the Buster B show model, absolutely free. Plus, what great guys these people are. They'll throw in a year's supply of bags. That's a total savings of $252. Quantities are limited. All show models are on sale. They are priced to go and covered by the 2-year full warranty. Oreck, 13230 North Dale Mabry in Tampa. That telephone number is 264-1937. Or 2454 McMullen Booth Road in Clearwater. That telephone number, 726-0523. Bring home an Oreck, and you will know that I wasn't, fibbing about, fighting over it with the muffin. 990-9352 in Hillsborough is my telephone number. There must be something drastically wrong with the line. 461-9352 is that number in Pinellas County. Larg, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I just want to say to start off with, I usually don't always listen to your Friday programs, but I'm glad that I listened today. I have something that I want to kick around with you, maybe a little bit esoteric, but I'm going to try to make it as concrete as I can. I've always shared a lot of
maybe esoteric is what I need with this audience today.
Perhaps. But I've always shared a lot of your concerns that you bring up on the radio, and in fact, my wife gets really annoyed sometimes because when she gets home from work, I'll be ranting and raving about a topic you brought up or something.
Instead of having done your chores, right?
Well, no, just because she'll say, well, why don't you just relax? You worked hard all day. Why do you worry about what's going on in the world, you know? But, anyway, the point I wanted to make, we were sitting around having a discussion about stuff like that the other day, and I got a knock on the door, and it was a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses with their child, and I didn't have time to talk to them, and I basically share your religious views anyway concerning Orthodox religion. But after I sent those people away because I was cooking dinner, I kind of felt bad that I treated them unkindly, and I got to thinking about that couple that goes door to door, not being paid for it, dragging their little child around, you know, and basically I think they're good moral people.
I'm sure they are.
And it got me thinking about a lot of the issues that I am upset about and you've expressed concerns about. And it just made me think that there is a lot of the problems, even the economic problems that you talk about, like the underclass seemingly being kept the underclass for conscious reasons, and the crime problems and everything. It seemed to me that there is a sort of moral or spiritual, if you want to use the word, decay in this country.
Let me interrupt you at this point. I know that you waited a long time. I'm going to be honest with you. We're sold out today. I'm backed up. I've got to take another break, and I don't want to cut you off. Can I ask you to hold for a couple of minutes?
Surely.
Okay, because I assume that you've got some time. Back to Largo we go. I'm sorry, Larg, to do that to you, but it was that or terminate.
Oh, thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. I'll try to make my point as clearly as I can and ask a question about it. When the religious people left my door, I started thinking about the situation, and although I can't buy the religion, and there was no way they were going to convert me into their religious way of thinking, I gave it some thought that in a way they have a point, and in a way they're on the right track, I think. Don't you think that the country is in I don't know a moral decline in a sense that covers a lot of different areas that you talk about, and maybe even spiritual decline, if you want to use that word. And I sure don't think that the people like Pat Robertson on TV, I don't want to see the country going that way. But don't you think spiritually or morally this country needs to get their act together a little bit?
I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with the words that you're using in terms of spiritually or morally. When people tend to talk about morals in this country, they mean things like exposing your breasts or making love to somebody you're not married to.
Right.
Morals to me is a little bit more like not cheating somebody or keeping your wedding vows.
Well, my definition of morals is a lot closer to yours.
And in terms of spiritual values, I don't believe in spirits, but I do believe in having spirit, if you know what I mean. I believe in loving your country, for example. That's having spirit. Believing in devils and personal gods who help you raise the rent money, no. But if we can agree on the definitions of those two words, I couldn't agree with you more. We are more and more going to church in this country, but less and less paying our taxes and paying our tolls on the crosstown and following the speed limit. That to me is moral.
You're right.
Going to church isn't.
You're absolutely right. And when I see those the organized religion and the preachers that you see on TV, that is by no means my definition of moral. I think they're as lacking in it as anybody else. I was talking about real morality, like what you're talking about. I see that as a fundamental problem in this country, and I don't think organized religion is the answer. But I do think the answer is along those lines of just basically people becoming moral, not for fear of heaven or hell or the devil.
Well, you're also dead on when you talked about, you're right, those people are at your door doing what they believed in. So often I have complained, people will call up and say, boy, I really do wish those conservatives would go away and leave us alone. Bull, go out and do what they did. They played the game right for 10 years.
Yeah.
They were out there knocking on doors, getting people signed up for voter registration, on and on and on and on. Hey, they're the only ones off their duffs today. They deserve whatever fruits they've gotten from their hard work. And all those so-called liberals and moderates who sit home and wait for somebody else to do it, to do it for them, rather, to hell with them.
You're absolutely right, Bob, and I had a lot of respect for those people, even though I didn't share their ideology. Like I said, that was a couple with a small baby on their own time after work, going door to door. I don't know how many hours they put into doing that, but they were truly doing something they were believing in, and although I couldn't buy their religion, I looked at those people with a deal of respect.
You have to.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a hell of a lot more than you or I.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Bob.
990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. St. Petersburg. Hi, St. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob. I hope you might forgive me for kind of doing a reiteration of my speech with the talk with Carol earlier. But I wonder if the fascination with violence isn't because something in our character knows we have to deal with violence, but if we just want to be fascinated by it without dealing with it ethically, we just keep looking at it and getting bored by it, maybe, and then accepting it.
Well, I don't know. It seems to me, first of all, humor, for example, is based upon someone else's tragedy. Most of our entertainment in this world is based upon somebody else's tragedy. Do we really understand anymore that what's in the newspaper is real people and not fictitious characters? Or what shows up on the 6 o'clock news, these are real people and not just actors? Or do we really understand anymore?
Well, I think because maybe we're taking it out, getting out of touch with it, whereas we can keep in touch with it. Like, for instance, if we're and we're talking about getting off our duffs, the Jehovah's Witnesses, their efforts, writing and getting information from Amnesty International about torture throughout the world that we can affect by just taking a few simple minutes to write in a decent, non-pompous way to people whom they suggest.
Well, I really...
the prisons and such about torture.
It's astonishing. It's one of the very few things I agreed with this afternoon with Carol Sudler is when he shot back to you something along the lines of, what are they going to do, forward the postcards on to the people who are beating up the other people?
What are they going to do? Oh, no. Okay, when those come in.
No, sir, I can't scream over the traffic. I said it was one of the very few things, though, that I agreed with Carol Sudler. I'm really sorry for what's going on in Cambodia. I'm very sorry for what might be going on in Poland, but there are a lot of things going on in Florida and Pennsylvania that are a hell of a lot closer to my home. Thank you ever so much for your concern with what's going on the other side of the world. Don Richards standing by at the WFLA News Desk.
Investigators think
we being myself and the live studio audience. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob.
Hi there, Tampa.
Well, while I was listening to a couple of these conversations, it struck me that if we might have our TVs turned up so loud watching imitation murders and screams that with our windows closed in our living room, we wouldn't be able to hear the real screams of someone being murdered next door.
Well, I guess that's what we're all saying. We all seem to be aware of that. How do we change it? I don't know. Do you?
No, I really don't. Well, there's one thing that we can't change is, you see, air conditioning and television has taken our neighbors out of our life, really.
And the telephone and the automobile and the...
Yeah, and so we don't have that close personal contact with the people around us. So, back in the 50s and 60s, we had very nosy neighbors, and we also didn't have any keys for our locks. My parents, I don't think, would have been able to find the keys to the front door.
Well, I beg your pardon. We did have keys for our locks. Most of them were called skeleton keys, and if you lost one, all you had to do was go down to the Woolworths and buy another one.
Buy another one. It fit them all, yeah. But we didn't use them back in a small town where I grew up. We never locked our front door because there was a lady next door that knew everything. Nobody could do anything without her knowing about it, and a burglar wouldn't have a chance. I mean, he would have been reported right away. So there was some safety there, but I don't know what to do about it. We can't do away with air conditioning, can't do away with TV.
Well, there is one thing that could be done, but I don't see it being done. That is all of the people who make television shows and movies and all of the news directors at TV and radio stations and all of the editors at the newspapers. If we all took our responsibility and said, well, look, hey, we are directly responsible for a lot of this, guys that do talk radio shows, et cetera, et cetera. And if we all police ourselves, then we could make a change. We could put a dent in this.
Yeah.
But all it's going to take is for one newspaper, one talk show, one radio station, whatever.
Somebody's got to take the lead.
Well, no, I'm saying if we got together, it just takes one to break out of it.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If someone will take the lead. Well, for instance, Don Richards' headlines, and, he's just doing what comes across the wire or whatever, but his second to last one there was 5 headlines, and 3 of them were deaths. And then the last one there was 4 headlines, and 2 of them were deaths. And the deaths always came first, and
that is deliberate. I promise you, I sat in on the meeting. I've sat in on many meetings. And the reason it's deliberate is because we're terrified that if we don't do it, somebody else will go
beat
listen
you to
there.
it. Yeah.
And you'll listen there.
Bob, back in, I'm for raising the minimum wage. Back in the early 50s, we had like $1 an hour or 75 cents, somewhere in that neighborhood was minimum wage, and there was 3 or 4% income tax, and now we've got 25 to 30% income tax. If minimum wage had kept up with the percentage of taxes, income tax, it should be at $8 to $12 an hour. If the government is so ready to raise these taxes and burden us, why can't they raise the wage for the little guy down here?
I think it's one of the great shames of our time, and I also think, and I've said this before to regular listeners of this program, this is nothing new. Nobody ever seems to pick up on it. It has nothing whatsoever to do with teenagers or flipping hamburgers or even keeping men in poverty. It has nothing to do with the minimum wage. What it does, or what it is, it's a female issue. If you raise the minimum wage into the $4.50 category for guys that load trucks and sweep floors, what, pray tell, is a woman who can keep books worth? What, pray tell, is a woman who can type worth?
Yeah, well, she's worth whatever the company feels. But if we're going to have continued increasing taxes without any input from us, we need to have a minimum wage that keeps up with that same rate of expansion.
Well, it's one of the great shames of our time that a man wearing a $1,500 suit has the audacity to come out and address a lot of other people wearing $1,500 suits and try to convince the American people that a 35-cent an hour raise for 3% of the workforce
is going to wreck the economy.
It's going to wreck the economy.
Yeah, really. Well, there's one thing, Bob, if you look at almost any issue, I won't say any issue, but if you look at almost any issue, and I don't care if it comes from religious sector or government or private or wherever, if you look, there is a common thread, and it's called, and listen to this closely, it's called an obedient consumer. Anything that will make a person more obedient or make him consume more are the goals of the institutions, and I'll put Congress and some of the mega corporations and people in power in this world. That is their goal. Obedient consumers.
Well, they sure seem to have gotten an awful lot of them.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm not really sure which is worse, the guy in the $1,500 suit or everybody else, wearing the $300 suit sitting at home saying, okay, I'll buy that. Sure, makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, next year, the IRS is reducing the age to 2 years old to have a mandatory Social Security number if you want to use them as a deduction. Social Security number is not mandatory. Well, it's only mandatory if you want to use it as a deduction.
I know. I always used to laugh at the people that were very offended by that. The ones who were afraid, well, Big Brother's taking over this time. But come on.
Obedience. Obedience, they can keep up with you.
Thank you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
One more hour yet to go, please. Whatever you do not venture very far. Probably won't be any calls the next hour, but that's okay. We can sit here and look at each other. More lighthearted. I'm going through transitions, okay? I'm always worrying and wondering about what the hell to do with the show. And of late, I have found it a tad too lighthearted, a little bit too frivolous, and have decided that I don't even want to do Fridays as frivolous as they have been. And also keep in mind that I have to go out tomorrow for 3 hours and walk around in tights in public with a wireless microphone in a park somewhere in Largo, trying to do a talk show in a time slot where I have not done a live talk show for well over a year to an audience that is probably listening because they're confident I'm not on. And so that should be a very, very interesting 3 hours in my life tomorrow, walking around on my stocking feet there. So I mentioned a whole lot of things when I came in this afternoon, things that genuinely have been bugging the hell out of me, things that have kept me from being in a very frivolous mood, if I may. And I suppose I could go through them again. I frankly don't feel like it, because one of the things that I mentioned is how astonished I was that for all practical purposes, each of these things that have all happened in the last day or so have brought utterly no response whatsoever on this program or any other program that I have listened to. I mean, I heard one poor guy yesterday as I was driving in trying to do a show on Abby Hoffman's death. He's working at a small Pinellas County station with a very, well, I guess it's actually technically Hillsborough. No, it's, damn, where the hell are they licensed to? In any event, that station at the end of the road. He's working at a station with a pathetically small signal that basically covers nothing but retirement homes of, people who have recently registered Republican, and he's trying to talk about Abby Hoffman. While in the meanwhile, there are incredible things going on. Over here, okay, I'm doing a show about Yahtzee. I'm not saying I'm blameless here. We got another guy in the morning who strums his guitar. By the way, Flacky, do you have maybe a comb and some wax paper? I really feel left out here because I know that you don't play the harmonica. And, that's what we're doing over here. At the other station, they're saying, when were you born? What's your birthday? And this guy who talks about bridges and nightclubs and dinner theaters. And the world's going to hell in a handbasket in many instances. I know it's not in all of them. And there's no need to wear a hair shirt all the time and walk around saying, oh, woe is us, oh, dear. Oh, we're going to hell in a handbasket. But sometimes we are. And I noticed in Newsweek today, in the the column that talks about change, the bid on Hulk Hogan and the WWF wrestling title changing hands, and here at home we've got faith healing trials, and we have a television station, yes, a television station, trying to tell you that if you send money to the Richard Roberts television show, the religious television show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that your virginal daughter who gave up her virginity will be restored by the end of the year. And I guess if you don't send the money, she won't. We have the Tribune carrying every conceivable gory detail of this horrible, horrible murder. On and on and on and on. Did you find the wax paper and the comb? Be damned. Well, anytime you want to open it up and just jam with the blues or something, go ahead, because, obviously what I'm doing ain't working. No, you're supposed to play it. Go, do. Haven't you ever seen somebody play, the comb and the wax paper? Well, I guess you can't do it with a mustache, and Flacky has one of those yuppie mustaches. In any event, I'll give you the telephone numbers, 990-9352 in Hillsboro, 461-9352 in Pinellas. And, of course, in particular, on Fridays, we love to give out the practical joke line, 1-223-9797. That line rings directly in the general manager's office for people calling in from Pinellas County who want to complain. And it's my understanding that as soon as he gets, 15 calls in any 1 hour, then he will fire me. So if you live in Pinellas County and you want to complain, this line rings directly in David Maseko's office. That's 1-223-9797. Odessa. Hi, Odessa. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob. First-time caller here. Listened to you for, I guess, about a year and a half. I think you're pretty great. You're in a serious mood here today, so I'm going to
I am. I don't know why, but, I am.
I'm going to hit on a couple 4 or 5 points here, I hope, real quickly.
I was really looking forward to Dolman showing up today for the show, and that's, I guess, what put me in foul humor.
Now, Bob, I want to start with agreeing with you 100%. I heard that jerk on the show previous to yours who made the excellent analogy or point that he made, that he wished one of these candle lighting people on the sidelines would lose a family member so they'd know how it felt. By saying that, he just displayed that he had absolutely no idea of the issue. He doesn't even know what the capital punishment is, that it's murder, and he has absolutely no sensitivity to what murder is.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but I'll bet you a nickel that he's the guy that you would like. I'll bet you a nickel he's not a bad man. He's just a man that has never bothered to... God, I hate this phrase. I'm so tired of using it. He's never bothered to sit down and think about what it is that he believes in.
And it's scary because, like you, I was totally disgusted by what he was saying, but I wasn't shocked. It was a typical right-wing, stupid attitude, even though I'm a Republican and I'm embarrassed by people like that. But I'm going to move along. I agree with you again on the Tampa Tribune, and I'm going to take it one step further, the deficiencies of the Tampa Tribune. One step further. I've lived in Tampa all my life. I've just probably in the last 10 years started reading the front page, the serious news. But they always have a huge, usually color, picture right in the middle of the front page taking up valuable space. And I don't care if it was World War III breaking out. You still have a pretty picture of the sunset taking up, valuable article space. Why is Tampa missing out? I mean, I know we're not Chicago, we're not the Tribune, we're not New York or anything like that, but the Tribune is like reinforcing that we're a backwoods city.
Well, if we had to know, and I suppose we have a right to know of the murder, and of course we should have known about it, if we had to know some of the details of it, I think maybe we might have been able to wait until the trial, but I know there's one thing for sure that we did not need. And that is the picture that appeared in full color of the bloody pillow, the bloody doorstep, of the trail leading over from the steps coming down from the garage apartment. Not only did it upset me, not only has it caused me to lock this picture in my mind and think about it endlessly for the past couple of days, but how many children saw that too? And it had to be explained to them.
It's Geraldo Rivera taking over.
I'm not trying to hide reality from anybody, but Stan,
It's Geraldo Riveraism taking over. Shock radio, shock everything. But that's not that important either. I want to also touch upon it. I have to regret to say that once in a while I unfortunately listen to the other guy on WFLA, Sam McClellan, who's probably one of the, I don't even want to call him a jerk, but yeah, he's a jerk. Wonder what he's saying these days about the revelations in the Ollie North trial. And it's kind of curious that a lot of these, right-wing, pro-Republican people, and I'm a Republican, and I'm embarrassed by all this.
Well, we'll have to wait and find out.
Why are they so quiet now?
Well, you'll be on tomorrow morning. We'll find out then. My friend, I've got to run.
Bye.
Be good. Gary McKinley with a WFLA traffic report. Gar?
Yeah?
I got a couple of foxes here in the studio that...
oh, yeah?
That need to know, what's the traffic situation from downtown Tampa to Clearwater.
Downtown Tampa to Clearwater?
Yeah.
Well, they just want, they want a specialized traffic report?
That's what it amounts to, Gary, but they're foxes.
But what have they promised, like, in return, Bob? Apparently nothing, huh, Bob? Did they make that gesture again? Courtney Campbell Causeway.
Gary is number one, madam.
Courtney Campbell Causeway is doing fun.
I'm underway for about 25 minutes. You see, every Friday night, Howard's, they're located in that new NCNB building in downtown Tampa. Well, they open up the doors and they go out and they have a party literally right on the patio next to the Hillsborough River. 50-cent hamburgers, special drink prices, live entertainment every Friday night, and it's going on now until 8 o'clock. Friday nights are very, very special nights at Howard's, but almost every day is a special day at Howard's. Great food, good prices, incredibly large portions. Howard's, 2 locations, but the party only at one. The other one downtown. Gigantic hamburgers at 533 South Howard Avenue, but I'm not supposed to tell you about that. I don't know why they don't want me to tell you about it. They're great hamburgers in the evenings. Back to the phones we go. We'll talk to Tampa. Hi, Tampa. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello. Can I help you? David Maseko.
Yeah, I'm holding.
Yes, can I help you?
I've been holding to talk to Bob Lassiter.
Oh, I thought you wanted to talk to David Maseko.
No.
Well, that's what you told the board operator. What the hell, why'd you tell him that? I had to go to a great deal of trouble to pretend to be Maseko. What can I do for you?
Well, I was the guy that called Carol's show and was the one that mentioned the guys about outside the prison with the candles.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't, mean it the way it came out.
I didn't think you did.
I just wanted to, to say that I wonder how they would feel if something like this was to happen to their family members. It just don't seem.
Well, first of all, I think you're being a little bit presumptuous, and I'm not trying to come down on you, but I think you're being a little bit presumptuous. These people are very, very sincere people who do not believe in capital punishment.
Right. I understand they have their rights to do what they feel is right, but I just don't seem like the punishment system is working. The prison sentences, and I'm just trying to find out what has to be done. So
well, you got to understand that the man that committed this crime that we're all so enraged about is not a normal, rational human being.
Well, I agree.
There's no death penalty. There's no amount of prison time. There's nothing that would have prevented him. He snapped. He's berserk.
Right. But in the same instance, we take an animal, for instance, that would do something like that to a person, and we eliminate the animal.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that kind of on the same level, the same principles?
Well, the animal's not considered to be a human being.
No, but
we have a little extra special affinity for our own species. As a general rule of thumb, at least in theory, we do.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to find out what's going on and what's.
I understand your frustration, my young friend, and I know that you didn't mean, and I believe I said the 2 times I brought it up that I couldn't believe that you meant it. It was just an indication as to sometimes how we
we open our mouth. Yeah, how we snap, exactly, precisely. How we open our mouths before we totally engage the gear, and I do it too. I'm not immune from it.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy your show because it does get you thinking. It makes a lot of wheels turn that sit by the wayside sometimes. But
I'm just devastated that you'd want to talk to Mistako.
I wanted to talk to you.
Thank you.
I've listened to you for almost a year now, and like I say, I don't always agree. A lot of times I do, but like I say, you get the wheels turning. I think that's what counts.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, sir.
990-9352 in Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. In Pinellas, that's where all those cars seem to be driving around magically without anybody driving them. There really are little old ladies behind the dashboards there. So that if you see a lot of cars driving around that do not appear to have drivers, then you're in Pinellas, and you'll want to dial 461-9352. This entire studio audience is from Pinellas, and they're just looking at me very strangely. 461-9352, 461-WFLA. Don Richards standing by at the WFLA news desk. Donald?
Opened my mouth once, and they're out of here. I mean, they sat through, what, 12, 13 reports before they left?
Well, yeah, something like that.
And plus you doing a bummer show today. All of that taken into consideration.
A bummer show today? What's that supposed to mean?
I ain't talking about serious stuff and bloody pictures on a Friday. This is Monday. So disappointed in you, Bob.
Well, let's hear your fun traffic report.
I usually listen to you to get in the mood to head out to the Brandon Magic Wand, and cruise. Now, what am I going to do tonight? Cruise newspaper racks? I-4 eastbound, still slow, but
I'm a right-winger and very conservative, and it just really crossed my mind today. It's really surprising that every topic I ever heard you discuss really infuriates me on your viewpoint.
Well, thank you.
You are so close-minded. I've never met such a closed-minded person.
What am I closed-minded on, sir?
Well, like it's been maybe a month or so ago, about child discipline.
What about it? Because I think that human beings have the right to say, don't hit me? That makes me closed-minded?
Well, no. I don't want to hit a child. I don't want to hit anybody. I'm totally opposed to violence.
Well, great, sir. Then we would seem to be on the same plateau there.
No, because, if a smack on the rear end, if one time to get a child's attention and say, hey, listen to what I'm telling you.
Well, what I believe I said, sir, is that at the age where the child says, hey, don't hit me anymore, then at that point you should stop hitting the child, is what I believe I said.
Okay, well, if the child
we're talking about a 6-month-old little swat on the fanny, I don't see that as any major problem.
That's not what you said at the time you said it on the
No, I beg your pardon, sir. It is what I've said because I've talked about it a number of times. I think that a child is a human being. When a child objects to being hit, then you stop hitting the child. Just as simple as that, sir. Okay. Now, if that is just a little bit too liberal for you,
no, I'm far from.
Then I think we ought to put you in chains.
No. But
so what other of my stands do you have a problem with, sir?
No, I got so
many of them I know that you can't think of any of them, right?
Excuse me?
I said, what other of my stands do you have a problem with, sir?
Okay, well, I got so infuriated waiting for 20 minutes to talk to you. What were you talking about right before Paul Harvey?
Are you serious?
Yes, I am serious.
Larry Dolman. Larry, where the hell were you today?
Bob.
Yeah.
It was bad. When I sent in for the tickets, I had a different job. Now I've got a supervisory job right in the desk in an office.
Oh, now you got a supervisory job.
Right in the office.
Let me see here. Dear Bob, I am begging and I am pleading for 2 tickets for April the 14th. Please, please, please. Sincerely yours, Larry Dolman, Seminole, Florida.
Bob.
Funny, you knew my address when you were begging and pleading for the tickets.
Bob.
You're a big-time executive. You got a secretary. Did you have the secretary write us a little note? No. Did you have the secretary drop me a call or something? No.
Bob?
Yeah.
I gave the tickets to Scotty from St. Pete. Is he there?
No.
The rat?
No. Oh, so now you're going to try to blame it on someone else yet. That's probably how you got the big-time job, right? Stab somebody else in the back with vicious office politics. Now there's your poor boss, unemployed, out in the gutter.
Bob?
Yeah?
I'll send you a picture that I took over the shuffleboard court. You can frame it, blow it up 8 by 10 for you.
Why would I want a picture of myself at the shuffleboard court?
You were, well...
Sir, I live in a house with a lot of mirrors.
Do you look in them?
Of course I do.
Oh, God. Would you like a copy of the videotape of you on TV?
A videotape of... Sir, I have triplicates of all of them.
Would you give Mike Serio back his tape that you borrowed that you won't give back to him?
Oh, you're the one that called the other night?
Uh-oh.
Do you know that? That's a bunch of bunk.
I spent the night in the office.
That is a bunch of bunk about, oh, yeah, I lent Lassiter my tapes of that show and he won't give them back. That is absolutely bull-cocky.
El Toro de Caca. He wouldn't lie like that, would he?
Yes, he would.
Uh-oh. Well, I guess I've had a bad week, Bob.
I mean, did you hear him stealing all of my material?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Like that?
Yeah.
He said you stole that from him.
Are you going to believe that?
No, because I seen you do it in person.
That's right.
And I believe the great Lassiter.
And on top of that, the only time I ever see Serio is through the glass.
Well, that's...
I mean, he sits in another little room all isolated by himself. I don't talk to him.
He didn't put a wig on and come and heckle you today, did he?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
He said he was thinking about it.
Wouldn't surprise me, though, if he had tried. He looks like the kind of guy to me that would walk around with a wig on.
I'll send you a letter of apology, Bob.
Well, a lot of good that's going to do. I mean, you broke my heart at 3 o'clock. Where were you at 3 o'clock?
But you can have my house or my office to do your show.
What do I want your house to do? Oh, I see. Now you're going to make this magnanimous gesture that I can come to you and do the show.
Bob, this is all coming out wrong. I think I'll move out of Florida.
I think that's a good idea. How about the audience, eh? Oh, go!
Well, you've certainly been fair about it, Bob.
Well, thank you, Larry. It's certainly been my pleasure to chat with you on the phone. I trust that in the future, when you write away to a big-time star asking for tickets to his or her show, that this won't happen again.
Bob?
Yeah?
I wanted to come see you at the Renaissance Fair tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
But I got to work again.
Oh, geez, I thought you were going to ask for a couple of tickets. Darn.
But I already been once, Bob.
You've already been to the Renaissance Fair once, huh?
Yeah. I missed you there, too.
How come a big-time executive like you has to work on Saturdays?
It's something extra I do.
Oh, okay.
Nothing special.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Larry.
Well, thank you, Bob. I'll send you that letter.
Anytime, Larry.
Okay.
Unbelievable how somebody could do something like that to me. Standing by the WFLA News Desk, none other than the ever-popular, always shows up when he has tickets, Don Richards. Unfortunately, please do not go to Calb's Cove if that is what you're in the market for, because you simply will not find it. You will find good food, good, healthy food, delicious food at Calb's Cove. No greasy burgers, none of that kind of stuff. No deep fried. No, not at Calb's Cove. Yes, they've got fried food, but not the kind of stuff that's just fried over and over and over and over again. No. Broiled, boiled.
I was driving in my car the other day when that story first broke out, and just hearing Don Richards when he explained what had happened, I felt, you get kind of like, wow, if that happened, it was bad. But then to read something like that in the Tampa paper, Tribune, I mean, they went overboard on that. I agree with you. That was needless.
Well, I'm not quite sure exactly how we carried it at first. I didn't hear it. I was not available to hear it. I'm not sure how other radio stations dealt with it, but I sure as hell know how the people that deal with pictures dealt with it.
It's like reading the National Enquirer. They have pictures. They have actual stories in there of things that happened. There was a case where a guy had been electrocuted in prison when he was in a cell by himself. Now, when the news story broke out all over the country, it was, this had happened, this had happened, this had happened. But in the National Enquirer, they have the, inmate barbecues himself. You know, I mean, that, you expect that in a National Enquirer, but it seems like the tendency for that to happen in regular newspapers is happening a lot more.
I was stunned, and especially, again, I know not that many of you subscribe to both newspapers. If you had read the account, first of all, in the St. Petersburg Times, you would have known what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But when you read the account in the Tribune, it was enough to turn your stomach. I didn't need to know that much.
Yeah.
I don't need to have the awful image that I now have of what was done to that poor woman.
When I went and when I went through my EMT classes, we went through a whole bunch of stuff, and then they showed us and a film called Faces of Death. I watched that and I thought, well, that was fine. But the first time I actually saw a seriously, you know, messed up person, that image I will always carry around with me. And you can read it and you can see it, but it's a whole lot different. And I don't think the Tampa Tribune should have quite gone that far and overstepped what they did.
Nor many of our local television stations either, with all those nice full-color pictures.
Yeah.
And evidently,
I wanted to find out one thing real quick.
Yeah.
What time are you going to be out there at the Renaissance tomorrow?
Noon until 3.
Noon until 3?
Noon until 3.
I'll try to stop by, Bob.
Okay, we'll also be on the air at those hours. I don't know doing what, but nonetheless, noon until 3 tomorrow. Be good.
Thanks, Bob.
The rest of you be good, too. See you tomorrow, noon to 3, and then again on Monday at 3. Behave yourself.